Matthew, first 12 verses. In the time of King Herod, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? We have observed his star and his rising, and we've come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. They called together all the chief priests and scribes and all the people. He inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him in Bethlehem of Judea, for it was written by the prophet, "And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are by no means least among the rulers of Judea. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the wise men and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go, search diligently for the child, and when you found him, bring me word, so that I may go and pay him homage." And when they had heard the king, they set out, and there ahead of them went the star that they had seen in its rising, until it stopped over the place where the child was. And when they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
Probably since the beginning of time, human beings have looked up into the night sky, looking at the stars. Our ancestors would look at those stars and form constellations in their minds of animals and heroes and gods. And some of us, even today, will grab our local newspaper and flip through and check out that horoscope and see how things are working out for you. Because some believe that if you're born under a certain constellation, that it predicts your future and the life you'll have. That's likely what caused our wise men here in Matthew to look up and notice that something was different in the stars, and to sit together and chart a course and begin to follow that star, a star they saw as moving in the heavens, and to go towards it wherever it would lead. Humanity's ancient and enduring fascination with stars could be in danger because of something called light pollution. Because of our street lights and headlights and house lights and building lights and billboard lights that block out the lights that shine above us in the heavens. I was talking to a lady this morning over at Albright, and she says, "Pastor, we were so poor when I was a kid, that's all we could do at night was to sit down and look at the stars." I remember looking at stars, looking up the bright black sky and see all those beautiful lights shining in it. Trying to figure out, there's the Big Dipper, there's the Little Dipper, those are the two I got. I'd say that was it. Everything else is on its own. Some people will make pilgrimages out west, out to New Mexico, out to the desert regions, just to get away from all of the artificial light that we produce, so they can look up. And you know something? the stars that we're seeing here in Pennsylvania are brighter in New Mexico? Because there is no artificial light. It is only that light, that the light of those stars are able to shine as brightly as possible. As a matter of fact, artificial light is leading to the decline in the population of lightning bugs. Because they use the light of the male lighting to identify for breeding, but because of the artificial light, they can't see each other's lights. And so the species falls away. But today, people who use telescopes to look up at the night sky, maybe you're an amateur sky watcher, are having even more trouble seeing the lights of heaven. Even the professional astronomers are having trouble seeing the lights of heaven because of the artificial lights that we have created, not just here on earth, but what we have placed up in the sky. I was watching a movie the other night, Mad Max Thunder Road, I think it was one of them. And there was a scene in there with a young girl sitting with an older woman, and they're looking at the night sky after this apocalyptic future that we're facing. And all of a sudden there was a flash going across the sky. And the girl said, "What's that star?" And she said, "That's not a star, that's a satellite." So even after we blow each other up here on Earth, we're still going to have our satellites moving around. There's a company out there called SpaceX. Elon Musk owns that company. He's the founder and chief executive. And one of the things he is doing, he has launched an array of 6,500-pound satellites up into space for the greater good of us. So that I can get out my cell phone and I can text Bev, who's sitting right there, and let her know, "I love you, dear." All the way up to a satellite. And then all the way back down to her phone. And she goes, looks at her phone and goes, "Love you too." Bing! Off they go. People sitting at the dining room tables, texting instead of talking. But they're out there, those satellites, so we can get better reception on our cable TV, so that we can get on our internets quicker, so that we can communicate with our phones. All for the greater good. But for stargazers, that's a problem. Many a picture that they have taken of a celestial body had to be thrown away because here comes a satellite right across the lens, blocking out the view. Even our space station that floats around, somebody called it space junk, that's just floating around our planet. Satellites that we have sent out there. But again, it's for the greater good. But whose greater good? Folks, there's something about looking up into the heavens and realizing how small I am. That means something. I remember when I first got into being a believer of Jesus Christ, going to church. I was always a believer, but to go to church and to really get into the Word and to start up growing in the Word. And I remember when I was working down at the factory and I was having lunch out on the loading dock. And I was sitting there by myself. I had my lunch bag, I had my thermos, and I'm just looking up at the night sky. And all those stars. And said, God put those there. God put those stars there. God made this planet that I live in. And the one who put these stars into space loved me enough to send his son under a star in Bethlehem. that I would not be lost. There's something very powerful in realizing just how small you are, but how big you are in the eyes of God. Psalm 8 says, when I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon, the stars that you've established, what are human beings that you're mindful of them, mortals that you care for them? And the Magi of old, where is this child who has been born the King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the rising and have come to pay him homage. We don't know a whole lot about the Bethlehem star. We don't know if it moved across the sky like the Hale-Bopp comet. Remember the Hale-Bopp comet? Some of you are sitting there shaking your head. Some of you, I have no idea what you're talking about. Back in the 90s, Hale-Bopp comet moving across the sky with its tail behind it. Maybe it was just a new appearance that showed up in heaven. We're coming out of the Christmas season. Yesterday we took down decorations at home, put them up in the box. Monday these will come down, these beautiful decorations. But are they shining as bright for you today as they did 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
I praise it. And I pray that we can anticipate it being beautiful lights next year. The thing is, when the Magi gazed up to heaven and plotted their charts, what they had, they didn't have to contend with the light pollution that we contend with today. And folks, we contend with a lot of pollution that's blocking our vision of the light that we are to follow today. There's so much going on here in the world. There's so many distractions that make up the secular holiday of Christmas that sometimes we lose track of the true meaning of Christmas, the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. Are we looking at our Christmas trees only because we want to see the heirlooms of our past? Or do we look at their Christmas trees remembering of God's love that continues on each and every day? And here at the church, in our church, as news has broken that a group of diverse thinking people gathered together and came to the conclusion that the Methodist Church's best road for the future is to separate into two separate churches. That's sad, folks. That's sad because we're losing the vision of what the church is supposed to be. Amen. I never joined a church because of a book of discipline. The reason I joined the Methodist Church was because I sat in the pews with my neighbors and family and friends. I was able to look at the faces of those around me and know that there was a love there that comes from Jesus Christ our Lord. And a willingness to worship Him above all others. To turn our eyes to God. And to trust in His forgiveness and His love and His direction for my life. That's why I joined the church. That's why I stayed with the church. And I pray that's what we can continue to do, to get rid of all the light pollution, all that pollution that's in front of us, all the things that are blocking our vision of what we should be looking at, and what we should be looking at is Jesus. Jesus. There's a movie that came out in 2014 called The Fault in Our Stars. It's about a couple teenager cancer survivors pursuing life and love. The girl's name was Hazel, and the boy's name was Augustus. They call him Gus. Star-Crossed Lovers. You get that from Romeo and Juliet. I'm sure that the bard was sitting out looking at his night sky and came across this phrase of star-crossed lovers. The tragic fate was somehow written in the stars for these two. In the film, golfer Gus confesses this to Hazel. I'm in love with you, and I know that love is just a shout into the void, and that oblivion is inevitable, and that we're all doomed. And that one day all our labors will be returned to dust, and I know that the sun will swallow the only earth we will ever have. And I am in love with you. I'm in love with you. And love, folks, that's the epiphany we all need. Go to a graveyard, cemetery, walk around, take a look at some headstones. See those stones with shaken hearts, epitaphs of love that one person has for the other, even after death. And I have said this so many times in funeral services that I can't remember how many times I've said it, but I have quoted over and over again 1 Corinthians 13:8, love never ends. Love never ends. It endures all things, even death. Because even if someone has died, you don't stop loving them. And the great thing is, they don't stop loving you either. Because love is more powerful than death. And love is more powerful than any denominational decision. Love is more powerful than any bipartisan or partisan political position. Love is more powerful than any of that, because love is what joins us all together as followers of Jesus Christ. His love, so great that he gave his son Jesus Christ for our salvation. His love and our love for him. If we keep focused, just like the Magi, who were wise men, followed the star that led to Christ. They didn't go on this trek seeking the star. They went on the trek seeking the child. We are on the journey seeking Jesus together, embracing Jesus together, carrying our crosses and laying our burdens down at his cross together. That's our church's future. There is a fault in our stars. The fault is that we are turning our attention away from where we should focus, and our focus has to be upon Jesus Christ. Let's seek him above all others, above all things. This Epiphany, this new year, and in every year to come, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Let us get back to the heart of worship. Praise be to God. Amen.